So today I'm sitting under an umbrella because we're expecting a huge blizzard to come, and it's going to hit within an hour or two. The rain has been falling pretty much all morning, just kind of steady, light rain. So I'm sitting under an umbrella, and the rain is starting to pick up. I can hear it on the umbrella here. While the Israeli elections were happening on Tuesday, April 9th, something else transpired that is really kind of stunning. I started piecing this all together. It's a new element to the prophecy coming to pass and what's going to happen in the future. In thinking about what I told you about Nebuchadnezzar's statue, the feet of iron mingled with clay, and I said, that one foot was the Italian Pope signing the fraternity with the Egyptian Imam. Both represent iron. Egypt was the iron furnace, and the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire, was iron. So you have iron and iron making it stronger, and then you have, I believe, Jerusalem is the clay that doesn't mix. And they're trying to gain control over Jerusalem for global, worldwide religion, worldwide, government and all of that. But there's something that just happened on Tuesday connecting to the revived Roman Empire. I really think that this new element happening on Israeli election day is quite profoundly stunning, and you're going to see in a moment. If you know the history of World War II and prior to that, then you know about Hitler and Mussolini, and you know that they were dictators. In the news on Tuesday, on Israeli election day, it was announced in the Italian newspaper that the great-grandson of the dictator of Italy from World War II, the one that was executed, Benito Mussolini, his great-grandson, is going to be running for the EU Parliament in May of 2019. Now, this Mussolini, that's the great-grandson of Benito Mussolini, the dictator, his name is Julius Caesar Mussolini. Julius Caesar. And in the history of Benito Mussolini, the dictator, he was hoping to, and this is his belief, I don't believe in reincarnation, but he wanted to reinvent the Roman Empire of Julius Caesar. So with that thought, is it any wonder that the great-grandson would be named Julius Caesar Mussolini, and he's running for the EU Parliament in May of 2019? And he's a right-wing with the Brothers of Italy party. Now, the right-wing Italian president of the European Parliament, Antonio Tajani, apologized on Thursday after talking up dictator Benito Mussolini's contributions. He said, "Mussolini did some positive things," the Italian head of European Parliament said. He said, "You don't have to agree with his methods, but let's be honest, Mussolini built roads, bridges, buildings, sports installations. He remade many parts of our Italy," said Tajani, who is close to tycoon and former premier Silvio Berlusconi. "Generally speaking, I don't think his government action was positive, but things were done," he told Italian radio on Wednesday, mentioning also various serious unacceptable mistakes, including eliminating opponents, race laws, and declaring war. Yeah, he's the one who got Italy involved in the war. Mussolini created fascism, and it was his attempt to return Italy to the former ancient Roman Empire way of governing. In other words, he was basically trying to be a modern day Julius Caesar and cause that whole style of the ancient Caesars to be reborn. Mussolini used Augustus Caesar as a role model. Now just think about Jesus' words for 1 minute. They did not accept the Messiah, but they'll accept another who comes in his own name. I'm going to have to go in. It's getting too cold now. It's probably going to start snowing pretty quick. And we're expecting at least 5 to 7 inches of snow. This person next door is over here leaf blowing in this rain and freezing cold. And that is interfering with my video. So I'm going to go in. It's April 10th, and now the rain has turned into snow. And it just started snowing from the rain. And it's picking up. We're supposed to get 5 to 7 inches, they projected, and a blizzard tonight. It's already getting whiteout conditions on the road. So the snow is starting to come down pretty heavy now for the blizzard. The blizzard part of it hasn't even started yet because the wind has not been blowing yet. But the rain has turned to snow and now it's getting heavy. April 10th, the day after the Israeli elections. Benjamin Netanyahu won. Yippee! Well, it's blizzarding outside, and there's a little bit of a lull right now, but the blizzard is expected tonight to really pick up by about 5 p.m. So I had to come inside because it just got to be too cold in the rain, and then it turned to snow. And so now I wanted to talk about what I was making this video for. Now, it's said that the only official definition of fascism comes from Benito Mussolini, the founder of fascism, in which he outlines 3 principles of a fascist philosophy. 1, everything in the state. The government is supreme and the country is all-encompassing, and all within it must conform to the ruling body, often a dictator. 2, nothing outside the state. The country must grow, and the implied goal of any fascist nation is to rule the world and have every human submit to the government. 3, nothing against the state. Any type of questioning the government is not to be tolerated. If you do not see things our way, you are wrong. If you do not agree with the government, you cannot be allowed to live and taint the minds of the rest of the good citizens. The use of militarism was implied only as a means to accomplish one of the 3 above principles, mainly to keep the people and rest of the world in line. Fascist countries are known for their harmony and lack of internal strife. Well, yeah, that's because they kill people off that disagree with them. There are no conflicting parties or elections in fascist countries. Nazi Germany was extreme fascism. Better examples of fascist countries were Mussolini's Italy, Iraq, Iran, and many Middle Eastern countries. Now that's the definition of fascism under Mussolini. Now remember Jesus' words when he made that statement that they would accept another if he came in his own name. Well, this is quite profound. And here is what he said. He said that he thought he was chosen as a candidate not for his family name, but for his first names, the Italian form of Gaius Julius Caesar, as well as his sense of duty and international experience. Another that comes in his own name. So they thought that he wasn't chosen because he was a Mussolini, but because his name is Julius Caesar. So who was the opposition at the time of Jesus but the Roman Caesar element that was in charge of Jerusalem and all? Julius Caesar Mussolini was a naval officer. He was a submariner with the Italian Navy. And here's the dictator, Benito Mussolini. Can you see his weird eyes? Gaius Julius Caesar, he said, so many people want to put Mussolini on the ballot. He was born in Argentina, and he spent a lot of his childhood between Venezuela and Italy. The great-grandson of former Italian fascist dictator Benito Mussolini is to run in the EU elections for a small far-right party, he announced on Tuesday. That was the day of the Israeli elections. The Pope back in the 30s told Benito Mussolini that the church had long seen the need to, quote, rein in the children of Israel. That's very disturbing. One article states, the Pope and Mussolini, the secret history of Pius XI, XI, and the rise of fascism in Europe. David Kurtzer's nuanced book investigates an unholy alliance between fascism and the Catholic Church. The great-grandson of former Italian fascist dictator Benito Mussolini is to run in the EU elections for a small far-right party, he announced on Tuesday. That was the day of the Israeli elections, in an Italian newspaper. Julio Caesar Mussolini said in an interview that he is running for the far-right Brothers of Italy party. If he was elected, he would, quote, defend the national interest of Italy with all his actions and votes. Julius Caesar Mussolini describes himself as a post-fascist who refers to those values in a non-ideological way. When he was asked if he would define himself as a fascist, he responded, fascism died with Benito Mussolini. He said that his name is not an easy one to carry, but that he will never be ashamed of his family. His party, Brothers of Italy, is considered a patriotic party of Italy. We also have in Italy that a neo-fascist party's small win created kind of an uproar. But in Sicily, the new headquarters of Brothers of Italy, that's his party, a descendant of the post-fascist Italian social movement, had the phrase, Italians first, written on the wall during its recent inauguration. So that is Julius Caesar Mussolini's party, Brothers of Italy. One of the articles states that neo-fascist parties remained part of Italy's post-war political landscape, even though supporting or promoting fascism became a crime. I just want to bring up a couple of points here that, about the revived Roman Empire, because Mussolini really wanted to revive the ancient Caesar's Roman Empire. And Augustus Caesar was kind of his model, but his great-grandson happened to be named Julius Caesar Mussolini. So it's interesting now what I have to show you next. Legends of Mussolini, the dictator of Italy, defying death during the First World War and surviving assassination attempts were circulated to give the dictator a mythical, immortal aura. It was stated that Mussolini's body had been pierced by shrapnel, just like Saint Sebastian had been pierced by arrows. The difference being that Mussolini had survived this ordeal. He was also compared to Saint Francis of Assisi, who had, like Mussolini, suffered and sacrificed himself for others. Mussolini's humble origin was described with explicit parallels with the life of Messiah, Christ, when writing about his blacksmith's father and mother, fascist propaganda presented them symbolically as the Holy Family. Quote, they are but Mary and Joseph in relation to Christ, end quote. The Vatican implied that heavenly powers were aware that Mussolini had saved Italy from Bolshevism and thus protected him. The Pope at that time referred to him as the man of providence during the aftermath of the Lateran Treaty. In addition to being depicted as being chosen by God, the regime presented Mussolini himself having omnipotent or godlike characteristics, such as being able to work superhuman amounts, 14 to 16 hours daily, and never appearing tired. Fascist newspapers implied even that Mussolini had performed miracles, such as stopping the lava flow of Mount Etna and invoking rain in the drought-suffering Libya during his visit to the region in March of 1937. A story of a deaf-mute boy being cured after listening in a crowd to a speech of the leader was told in an elementary school manual. His overtly belligerent image did not prevent newspapers from declaring he had done more for peace than anyone else on the principle that Mussolini always did better than everyone else. He was the leader, Duce, and proclaimed in song even before the seizure of power. His war on Ethiopia was presented as a revival of the Roman Empire, with Mussolini as Augustus Caesar. To improve fascism's image in North Africa and Levant and to gain Arab support, Mussolini had himself declared as the, quote, protector of Islam during an official visit to Libya in 1937. And now Julius Caesar, Mussolini, the great-grandson, has his headquarters in the United Arab Emirates. It's a little bit symbolic as well, I think, that Mussolini had a pet lion cub in 1924. So it's fascinating to know that reviving the glories of the Roman Empire in modern Italy was a common theme of Mussolini. And this called for the control of Mare Nostrum, our sea, as the Mediterranean Sea was called in Rome. So they wanted to control the Mediterranean Sea. April 21st is the anniversary of the founding of Rome, was proclaimed a fascist holiday intended to replace the socialist Labor Day as a celebration of the Roman virtues of work and discipline. Rome's role in establishing Christianity as a universal religion was also exalted. Not to that, I would say the Roman version of Christianity. There were two major marches that were devised as propaganda: the March on Rome, where Mussolini demanded power, and the March of the Iron Will to capture the Ethiopian capital. The notion of a march on Rome as a concept to inspire heroism and sacrifice, and the fascists made full use of the notion. He was very much into reviving monuments, excavating ancient Roman ruins and rebuilding the mausoleum of Augustus. Received strong support from the fascist regime. Mussolini came to power in 1922 and tried to recreate a Roman Empire with colonies in Libya and Ethiopia, but he sided with Adolf Hitler in 1939 and led his country into a disastrous war which ended with Allied troops invading Italy. So what we have in the tribulation period is the revived Roman Empire gaining power. And this is what Mussolini was trying to do. And now his great-grandson is running for the EU Parliament. And why wouldn't he try to revive the ancient Roman Empire with a name like Julius Caesar Mussolini? Then we would have the revived Roman Empire if he became a leader in the EU Parliament. And he tried to revive Italy to its ancient former glory. And then the Pope would be involved somehow, because the Pope and Mussolini had a thing going on in secret. So you have all of this happening right at the time when Israel just re-elected Benjamin Netanyahu as prime minister. And on the same day, Julius Caesar Mussolini announces he's going to run for the European Parliament. So now not only do we have the Pope representing the revived Roman Empire on Nebuchadnezzar's statue on the feet, the iron, but you have him making this alliance with the Islamic Moroccan king, and that alliance of Esau and Ishmael coming together, and then the Pope declaring things that diminish the Jews and that Jerusalem should not be for the Jewish people, but should just be for everybody all over the world. And, and now let's just add this Julius Caesar Mussolini to the mix. So this is the latest shocking addition to the revived Roman Empire that you could not even see this one coming. So wouldn't that be something if Jesus was actually referring to this other one coming in his own name, being Julius Caesar? So I guess we should keep our eyes on this one, because it really does elevate the revived Roman Empire in the end of days, if he gets into power and makes Italy great again, so to speak. And also remember, it's kind of interesting that in Italy, they had that 5-story statue of Donald Trump recently, where they marched him through the streets, and they had kind of disturbingly, dancers. They were wearing the red to portray the ancient Roman soldiers with their shields dancing in front of Donald Trump as the big giant, what'd they call it? They called him a god or something. So, what if this man thinks he's a Roman god too? And at some point he becomes the one that we've all heard about in the last days. Jesus talked about the man of sin, the son of perdition. It's kind of interesting that they talk about this rising fascism to be the yeast, which is the leaven in Passover. You're supposed to get the yeast out of your house. And I think that that's a really interesting connection. Not that they're going to rise at Passover, but just that they represent leaven, which is sin. And the leader of the Casa Pound right-wing fascist group in Italy, the leader was in a band called Evil Beast. So it's kind of a significant name for the last days.